paralyzed Apache girl discovers amazing strength. What this rancher did changed everything forever. Nia's hands trembled against the canvas, the vivid colors of her acrylics promising more than just paint. They whispered truths about her life. Every brushstroke seemed heavy with expectation, as if they were clutching secrets that threatened to claw at her insides. People in town regarded her art as a hobby, a pastime for someone like her. The girl who had been paralyzed in a truck accident, the one whose wheelchairs rolled on paths littered with unearned pity. But that didn't stop the fiery core within her from igniting passion onto the canvas, pleading to be acknowledged. Despite the warmth of her family's support surrounding her, Nia felt exposed. The pride her mother instilled about their Apache heritage clashed with the shame she felt when whispers danced in the air, dismissing her talent as frivolous. Her heart raced at the thought of being seen, really seen, not just as a girl in a wheelchair. What if she dared to accept James's offer to join the art class? A flicker of excitement mingled with the knot in her stomach. Taking that step could cost her the fragile bond she cherished with her family. Would they view her as chasing a distant dream instead of honoring their truth? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Nia set her palette aside, the vibrant colors mocking her uncertainty. What would it mean for her art to shine, to be recognized? She envisioned herself in a spotlight, but dark shadows loomed, the peers whose cutting words stung like a million pinpricks. Each compliment felt like a dagger, laced with envy. Would they see her as a fraud? She was gripped by doubt, the corners of her mind overrun with questions. What if her narrative overshadowed their doubts, or made their failures more apparent? What if she was simply destined to remain a tragic figure, cursed with potential that would never see the light? As the deadline for the art competition whispered closer, Nia grappled with the gnawing fear that accepting the scholarship might mean leaving her identity behind. She felt the weight of her ancestors watching her, their stories weaving through her imagination like a river she dared not disturb. Torn between her aspirations and the love she owed to her family, she was trapped in a storm of conflicting desires. The night of the gallery opening echoed with an energy that charged the air. The vivid hues of her art seemed alive with emotion, reflecting struggles and victories, but each gaze that drifted toward her canvases made her breath quicken with trepidation. It felt like standing at the precipice of a defining moment, teetering between acceptance and rejection. The opening night promised both glory and exposure, exposing the wound of being a paralyzed Apache girl yearning to be understood, while others judged her worth. As spectators entered, laughter and cheers washed over her. But Nia could only hear her own thoughts. Will they understand? Will they truly see me? Each brushstroke now felt like an agonizing scream, a declaration of her spirit fighting to live beyond the chair. The room pulsed with anticipation, but for Nia, everything hung in a delicate balance, teetering on the brink of an unknown precipice. The gallery felt like an arena where Nia was both the fighter and the prey. Each whisper and muted laugh sent shivers down her spine, a cocktail of adrenaline and fear coursing through her veins. The crowded space, with walls adorned in her artwork, was a paradox, celebration of her talent intertwined with the threat of judgment. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing on her, transforming the space into a pressure cooker of anticipation. As people moved closer to her paintings, she clutched the armrests of her wheelchair. She yearned to speak, to take ownership of her story, yet the words seemed locked behind a barrier, the weight of expectation pressing down on her shoulders. What if they saw her as merely a curiosity, a girl with a sad backstory rather than an artist? Doubt clawed at her throat, stifling any attempts to vocalize her thoughts. "Isn't it incredible?" A voice broke through her haze, an enthusiastic gentleman gesturing toward her largest canvas. "It captures anguish, yet there's hope. There's so much raw emotion here." He didn't seem to notice her discomfort, but his words sparked something inside Nia, igniting a flicker of recognition. With each compliment that floated her way, a strange mix of pride and anxiety wrestled within her. Deep down, she craved this acknowledgement, the validation she had been yearning for, but a gnawing insecurity continued to linger. The urge to crawl back into a shell of obscurity, familiar yet stifling, loomed tempting. She closed her eyes for a brief moment, focusing on the rhythmic sound of her breath, grounding herself. Suddenly, James, her friend and the art class instructor, approached. "You're doing amazing, Nia. Just look around. People are really connecting with your work." The warmth in his voice encased her in a moment of solace, reminding her of the friendship that had been a lifeline. "I don't know if I can handle this," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if they don't see me? What if they see only the chair?" He leaned closer, his expression earnest. "This isn't just about the chair. Your art speaks volumes, and so do you, whether you know it or not. Don't let fear dictate your worth." As the evening unfolded, she watched others interpret her pieces on their own terms. Comments swirled around her. "This one resonates with my struggle. It's like she's capturing the fight within all of us." Each remark served as unexpected evidence that perhaps there was more to her existence than the labels affixed to her. Though fear still clawed at her, a new realization began to break through. Her journey had nuances, intricacies that only she could weave into her art. And in that moment, standing fraught yet resolute, she began to confront her internal narrative. As more people penned their names in the guestbook, she caught sight of an old classmate. They locked eyes, an unsettling mix of recognition and past judgments flashing between them. Would they simply see a paralyzed girl, or the artist she aspired to be? The stakes felt higher than ever. Just then, Nia noticed the competition entry forms lying on a small table in the corner, waiting for signatures. The thought of submitting her work ignited her internal tempest once more. Would submission validate her journey, or would it sever her ties to loved ones? The turmoil of conflicting dreams and painful fears clashed within her, leaving a fork in the road. As she turned from the crowd, the buzz faded into the background. With a newfound clarity blinking into focus, she faced the table, staring at the forms that shimmered with possibility. In a moment that felt like destiny, she knew she had to make a choice, and it would change everything. Tomorrow, she would step into the unknown. The time had come to confront not just her art, but the very definition of who she was meant to be. The sun cast a soft glow through her bedroom window as Nia awoke, her heart racing with the remnants of yesterday's emotional whirlwind. Today was different. Today was pivotal. She rolled to the edge of her bed, the crisp sheets falling away to reveal a reality that felt both daunting and electrifying. The competition entry forms lay in her mind as prominently as they had on the table. With a sigh, she pushed her wheelchair closer to her desk. The artwork she would submit needed to represent not only her talent, but her story. Her fingers brushed against the cool surface of an unfinished canvas, igniting a simmer of inspiration mixed with anxiety. Each stroke of paint was an extension of herself, her emotions intertwined with the colors she had chosen. But what to express? Would it be a visual outcry against judgment, an embrace of her vulnerability, or something that balanced both worlds? As she stared at the blank canvas, she began to paint, allowing her instinct to guide the brush. Each stroke was not just color, it was a cathartic release of pent-up fears and aspirations. The idea of the competition transformed from an intimidating challenge into a personal expedition. She no longer wanted to hide behind her art. She wanted it to stand as a proclamation of resilience and a commitment to her truth. But shortly into her work, the familiar specter of doubt emerged. What if I fail? What if they don't get it? The relentless questions echoed like an old melody, one she had repeatedly told herself. She gritted her teeth, pushing past the whispers that threatened to drown her creativity. Failure was now defined not by the outcome of the competition, but by the silence that would do her journey no justice. Determined, she pulled out some photographs that had inspired her most recent pieces. Pictures with vibrant landscapes and moments of joy, each captured the essence of movement, an ironic contrast to her own stillness. Among them was a photo of her younger self, vibrant and carefree. She frowned. There was a time when she didn't even know defeat. She felt the flicker of rage rising within her. Maybe angles were meant to shift and redefine what strength really was. Halfway through the painting, James's encouraging words resurfaced in her mind. Don't let fear dictate your worth. The clarity of that message washed over her. Nia decided right then and there to use her canvas as a means of reflection, not just on her struggles but her growth, her strengths. As hours melted away, she lost herself in her creation, her brush flicking wildly across the surface as vivid colors came to life. It was raw, messy, and wholly her. Her work spoke of isolation, yet it vibrated with a surprising undercurrent of vitality. Each layer told a story, intertwining the threads of despair with moments of vibrant hope. Finally, she leaned back, staring wide-eyed at the result. The canvas was pulsating with life, a testament to her journey, a paradox of chaos and beauty. She had channeled that burden of expectation into something resembling power. Yet, even amidst her triumph, self-doubt lingered in the edges. She glanced at the clock. It was time to submit the entry form. Each moment spent wavering was a moment lost. Clamping down on her insecurities, she rolled toward the door with her heart pounding anew. As she crossed the threshold, she felt a weight unspeakably lighter. But as she made her way to the gallery with the form in hand, she noticed a familiar shadow, the old classmate from the exhibit. Would they greet her with judgment or recognition? The questions loomed ominously over her heart, blending uncertainty and resolve. The time had come to face not just the competition, but the judgment she had sought to escape. With each push of her wheelchair toward the entrance, she solidified her resolve. This was her moment, and she wouldn't let it slip away again. What awaited her inside the gallery might shape her narrative in unexpected ways, but for now, the ink of her bravery flowed on. As Nia approached the gallery, her heart thudded in her chest, each beat echoing a relentless mantra of self-affirmation. She inhaled deeply, trying to ground herself amidst the swell of apprehension that twisted in her stomach. The competition was not merely a path to artistic recognition. It was a chance to confront everything she had masked beneath layers of paint and self-doubt. Upon entering the gallery, the air was thick with anticipation, a wash of sounds mixing together, whispers, laughter, the soft clinking of glasses. She scanned the room, her gaze falling upon a handful of familiar faces, each a distant reminder of her past life. But somehow, they all felt different now, like shadows from another time. As she rolled further inside, she spotted her artwork framed and displayed among those of other competitors. It struck her like a thunderclap. The vivid colors vibrated with a tale only she could tell. Stepping closer, she admired the chaotic interplay of hues that symbolized her struggle and tenacity. The mere act of creating had paved new pathways in her mind. A sudden sense of vulnerability washed over her. Would they see the strength woven into the chaos or merely the mess? Just as she was about to distance herself from the artwork, a voice called out to her, jolting her from her self-examination. "Nia, is that you?" It was Amy, one of her classmates, an accusation of disbelief mixing with a hint of admiration in her tone. Nia's pulse quickened. Could she muster a response amidst the whirlpool of uncertainty? "Your painting, it's incredible," Amy continued, her enthusiasm palpable. "Thanks," Nia managed, feeling a flutter of warmth. The exchange held the power to transform rejection into validation, yet the specter of comparison still loomed. Memories of past competitions flashed through her mind, taunts of inadequacy and fear of ridicule awakening in her core. "What inspired you?" Amy asked, genuine curiosity in her eyes. Nia hesitated, then felt compelled to respond truthfully, allowing her revelation to take form. "It's about embracing resilience, the chaos in that painting. It's a reflection of my journey, the ups and downs," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. Amy nodded, her face a mask of understanding. Nia realized this was a crucial moment, not merely to share her work, but to claim her narrative and redefine what it meant to be a part of this event. As they spoke, Nia found herself opening up, her previous hesitance eroding. With each word, she dismantled the barriers she had put up. She was not a mere participant, but a storyteller through her art. The dialogue shifted something deep within her, a growing realization that her voice mattered. In that moment, she became aware of the crowd behind her, eyes darting toward her piece, murmurs circulating about the young artist in the wheelchair. The weight of their scrutiny felt heavy yet somehow invigorating. Her palms began to sweat, but this time it wasn't driven by fear, it was the anticipation of making her mark. "I should probably get back to my friends," Amy said, a hint of reluctance in her voice. But I want to see you succeed, Nia. You really have something special here. After Amy left, Nia's focus returned to her painting. The gallery buzzed around her, but she seemed to draw inward, reflecting on what Amy had said. She felt empowerment surging through her. It was time to wear her story like a badge of honor, not a source of shame. As the evening unfolded, the award ceremony began, the atmosphere charged with excitement and tension. Nia felt her heart race once again, 1,000 thoughts clamoring for attention. Would recognition come, or would she once again be overlooked? But amid the uncertainty, a quiet strength emerged within her, igniting a daring resolve. Somewhere in the auditorium, an unexpected voice penetrated her thoughts, announcing not just the winners, but highlighting the stories that resonated deeply. "Creativity is birthed in resilience," the announcer proclaimed. Nia realized then that this was more than just a competition. It was her moment to turn the page on her insecurities. The impending announcement drew nearer, intertwining hope and anxiety within her. Would she hear her name called? And what would that mean for who she had become? As the spotlight dimmed around her, she pulled herself together in her wheelchair, visualizing everything she had worked for rushing toward her. The air crackled with anticipation. A moment of truth loomed just ahead, and there was no turning back now. Would this new chapter resonate with triumph or transformation? As the announcer's voice echoed through the room, Nia swallowed hard, her heart pounding in synchrony with the rhythmic cadence of her thoughts. Each second seemed to stretch into eternity, a taut string pulled tight with uncertainty and expectation. The cumulative weight of her creative journey rose within her, each brushstroke imbued with her struggles, each hue a reflection of her battles. Yet, here she was, caught in the throes of an uneasy anticipation that intermingled with newfound strength. "And the winner of this year's competition is—" The name hung in the air, electrifying. Nia leaned forward instinctively, her grip tightening on the arms of her chair. In that moment, the world narrowed to the sound of her own breathing and the fractured heartbeat of resolve drumming in her ears. Would she take the leap into recognition, or would doubt hurl her back into obscurity? When the name was finally revealed, Nia felt the ground shift beneath her. It was not hers. The air whooshed from her lungs, but instead of despair, a flicker of clarity ignited in the depths of her chest. The voice of the crowd faded, replaced by the singular realization winning had never been the sole purpose of this experience. She had stood in the gallery, vulnerable yet proud, revealing the chaos and beauty of her journey. Awareness hit her. She had already triumphed by merely permitting herself to be seen. In that instant, she recognized that the act of creating and sharing superseded accolades. It was about connection, transformation, and the audacity to redefine herself against the odds. Nia's thoughts shifted rapidly, turning inward as she grappled with her layered identity. She had faced many years of self-imposed limitations, and now, with every ounce of strength she could muster, she shimmied away from the shadows of doubt. Recognition remained tantalizing, but acceptance of herself, of her artistry, was now her beacon. The evening continued, filled with applause and celebration from others, while in the quietude of her heart, Nia understood that the moment she had thought would bring her validation simply offered clarity instead. Her artwork spoke volumes, and she yearned to hear her own voice resonate beyond these walls. "Your painting is stunning, Nia," a voice called out, jolting her from her reverie. It was a stranger, someone drawn in by the vibrancy of her piece. Nia turned to face the newcomer, her pulse igniting with a flush of warmth. "Thank you. It's a part of me," she replied, her voice steadier than before. "That's what I felt. It ignites a sense of resilience." They spoke, and she felt each word weave into new threads of her narrative, bringing with it a sense of connection she had never anticipated. As the evening wound down, Nia took note of the vibrant connections she had begun to build. Each interaction formed a new necklace in the tapestry of her artistic journey, dangling with promise and inspiration. With every exchanged word, she felt her confidence swell as if the walls of the gallery were accepting her in all her brilliance. When she finally rolled toward the exit, her heart was lighter, her mind racing with determination. Outside, the cool night air brushed against her skin, invigorating and refreshing. She could envision not just her next steps, but the pathways stretching out before her. This moment marked a pivot point, a place where fear had been shed like an old skin. But just as she glimpsed her envisioned future, a new thought flickered in her mind. How would she channel this spark into her next project? What themes would continue to explore her identity and those of others in a similar plight? As curiosity coursed through her, she caught sight of Amy again across the street, beckoning with enthusiasm. Nia smiled, a flicker of defiance lighting her eyes. It was time to delve deeper, to embrace even bolder themes and push the boundaries of her artistic expression. She steeled her resolve. The next chapter had to reflect not just her triumph, but the world outside her canvas. As she prepared to cross the street toward her friend, a single question haunted her thoughts, exploding with potential. What if this time, she didn't just reveal herself, but challenged the very concept of perception and strength through her art? With that notion propelling her forward, she could feel a powerful wave of inspiration thrumming just beneath the surface, waiting to break free into something extraordinary. Nia stepped confidently onto the sidewalk, the weight of the moment still fresh but transformed into something empowering. Each step toward Amy felt less like a retreat and more like an advance into the unknown, a promise of potential waiting to be shaped. As she reached her friend, Amy's eyes sparkled with excitement, mirroring Nia's growing resolve. "Did you hear? You got such amazing feedback," Amy exclaimed, her energy infectious. "I know it feels disheartening not to win, but this isn't the end, it's just the beginning." Nia nodded, a rush of gratitude for Amy's unwavering support coursing through her. "You're right, there's so much potential I can tap into now. I want to explore more than just myself. I want to push beyond that." With each articulation of her vision, Nia felt her hesitations dissipate. "Like what?" Amy leaned in, genuinely intrigued. "I want to create a series that challenges how people perceive strength and vulnerability. I'm thinking of colors and textures that symbolize the complexities of resilience," she revealed, excitement breaking through cracks of uncertainty that had once threatened to overshadow her ambition. Amy's eyes widened. "That sounds incredible. But do you know how you want to execute it?" Nia hesitated. The idea was bright but still vague in execution. The abstractiveness felt both exhilarating and daunting. "I think I'll start with the stories, the untold narratives of strength hidden in everyday struggles. I want to paint real people, their battles, but in a way that's empowering." As they crossed the street together, Nia was struck by her conviction. Every brush would serve not only her expression, but also illuminate the hidden strength in someone else's narrative. Would they resonate with viewers, forging bonds that could ripple beyond the canvas? The thought brought Nia face to face with a significant challenge. How to tell the stories authentically without undermining the complexities of real experiences. She felt anticipation pulse in her veins as she imagined deepening her connection to her subjects, requiring raw, intimate conversations that could catapult her artistry into something that mattered. "Do you think I could reach out to people in our community?" Nia mused aloud, her mind racing ahead. "Perhaps I could host little sessions where they share their stories, and I capture them through my work." "Absolutely, that could open up so many connections," Amy encouraged. "Nervous might be more accurate," Nia replied, swallowing the apprehension that suddenly threatened to dominate her excitement. "What if I can't evoke their truths? What if my interpretation comes off as cliché?" "Then you'll adjust," Amy stated confidently. "It's not about perfection, it's about being genuine in your approach. Besides, you've already shown that you can transform your pain into art." As they reached one of Nia's favorite coffee shops, she took a deep breath, the heady aroma of roasted coffee beans soothing her nerves. "I want to come back to this moment and see how far I've come," she said quietly. "We all have to start somewhere," Amy replied. "This is your jump-off point." With determination settling in her heart, Nia began to imagine the preparations ahead. How she could lay groundwork for interviews, opening herself to vulnerability while navigating the fears that had previously paralyzed her ambition. This was uncharted territory, mingling artistically and personally. And just as conviction pooled in her chest, a reminder of the task ahead pricked at her thoughts. Through all of this, she still hadn't fully addressed how her past vulnerabilities had shaped her journey. If she was to challenge perceptions of strength in others, wouldn't she have to confront her own? The question loomed, dark and compelling. Nia sipped her coffee, pondering the intersection of her truth and the stories yet to unfold. Would revealing her own vulnerabilities enhance her connection to the subjects she aimed to paint? The moment hung delicately, resonating with a weight of possibility. This could be the defining leap she sought, the collision of self-exploration and artistic expression. As defiance shimmered in her resolve, she realized the challenge for her was twofold: to share the strength of others honestly while risking her vulnerability in the process. With courage woven deep into her fabric, she embraced the unknown, poised to take her next step toward personal and artistic authenticity. But what if uncovering her own truths proved more daunting than she anticipated? Nia spent the next few days consumed by her thoughts, her mind a whirlpool of possibilities. The excitement of her new project was overshadowed by the anticipation of the emotional labor it would require. She found herself pacing her small studio, fingers tracing the edges of her canvases as if waiting for them to whisper ideas to her. Each blank canvas became a mirror, reflecting her own uncertainties. What stories needed to be told? Whose vulnerabilities resonated deeply enough to weave into her narrative? The question stirred a knot in her stomach. She flipped her sketchbook open, nearly needing to take a moment, breath catching with the weight of what this meant. Each page was filled with half-formed ideas, sketches of abstract shapes that hinted at the struggles she wished to portray, yet none captured the essence of her intention. Frustration bubbled beneath the surface. She longed for clarity, a roadmap to guide her through this daunting process. Pushing through her self-doubt, she decided to focus on creating a structure for her interviews. If she wanted to tap into authentic experiences, she needed to ensure her approach truly elicited genuine responses. She drafted a list of questions meant to unravel layers of each individual's journey. How did they define strength? What vulnerabilities had they faced? As she wrote, she could feel her own insecurities bleed through the lines. How could she ask others to be vulnerable if she wasn't willing to do so herself? That very night, Nia decided to confront her own fears head-on. She settled into her favorite armchair, clutching her coffee cup like a talisman. The dim light cast shadows across her living room, transforming it into a cavern of introspection. She allowed her mind to drift over memories that had left her scarred, the moments she felt weak or invisible, the words that had cut too deep. The pain surged within her, raw and undeniable. Rather than retreat from these thoughts, she leaned in. What stories were hidden within those moments? How could they serve as bridges rather than barricades? Scribbling in her journal, her pen glided across the page as she unearthed painful truths, memories of times she had felt too ashamed to speak about her struggles. The catharsis fled through her fingers, while still leaving gaps filled with anxiety. Empowered by honesty, Nia wanted to know more. Each revelation fed her determination to create art that resonated deeply and authentically. But the question clawed at her. Was she truly ready to share these stories with others? What if the exposure left her more vulnerable than she could manage? A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts, and she looked up to find Amy standing with a bright smile and a stack of books tucked under her arm. "I thought it might help with your research," she said, stepping inside before Nia had a chance to respond. Nia's heart swelled slightly. The support reminded her she didn't have to navigate this journey alone. They sat together while Amy flipped through titles, sharing tales of strength and resilience from various authors and artists. As the pages turned, Nia's own narrative began to crystallize. By the end of the evening, she was filled with renewed clarity and determination. She envisioned not just capturing the struggles of others, but also intertwining her path of growth into the series. "Let's go for it, together," she finally declared, a fierce spark in her gaze. The challenge loomed before her, but she felt invigorated, ready to peel back the layers, not just of others but of herself. Yet, as they made plans for her first sessions, a flicker of doubt pulled at her resolve. Were her winds of change merely a facade for deeper insecurities? Was she brave enough to commit to the vulnerability she sought to explore in others? In the midst of action and burgeoning commitment, the echoes of her past whispered to her, urging caution. As the sun began to set, painting her kitchen in warm hues, Nia understood that this exploration wouldn't be merely about others. It would be a mirror reflecting her own evolving identity. What would the world see when they gazed back at her honesty? And would she find the strength to embrace her truth, no matter how raw it might feel? Nia awoke the next day feeling a combination of excitement and dread swirling in her chest. The sun filtered through her curtains, gently illuminating the piles of books scattered across her desk. still a testament to the flood of ideas and insights shared between her and Amy. There was no avoiding the inevitable now. The first interview loomed ahead like a storm cloud. As she sipped her morning coffee, she knew today she would make contact, both for herself and for the people she wanted to reach. Dialing the number she had penned the night before, nerves rolled in her stomach like waves crashing against the shore. Each ring felt like an eternity, until finally a voice enveloped her. "Hello?" It was soft yet steady. Nia's breath hitched momentarily, the sound grounding her. "Hi, this is Nia. I'm working on a project focusing on strength and vulnerability. I was wondering if you'd be open to sharing your story." Unforeseen bravery surged through her as the conversation unfolded. She was surprised by how easily laughter peppered their exchange. The woman on the other end spoke with an authenticity that almost caught Nia off guard, weaving in moments of struggle alongside triumph. It illuminated for her the potential the project held, an escape from her fears, a chance to show that vulnerability led to deeper connections. After hanging up, Nia sat in stillness, pondering her next move. The anecdote had cut through the haze of anxiety, tangibly shifting her approach. If she could invite others to share their truths, perhaps it was imperative that she shared her own too. This act of vulnerability could establish a sinkhole of understanding within herself, an understanding she had long shoved aside. The remainder of her day was spent preparing her space. Art supplies transformed into a chaotic storm of color and texture, each brushstroke on the canvas reflecting the emotional current flowing through her. She felt the creative energy erupting into something tangible. This external preparation mirrored the internal revelations rearing their heads, the swirling thoughts longing for direction. As her thoughts nested deeper into her wiring, she returned to her journal. This time, the words poured out with a fierceness she previously thought lacking. What narrative did she want to weave? What core truths did she want to unveil to strangers? The realization that her own experiences could evoke resonance in others flooded her consciousness with clarity. Still, shadows of doubt hovered ominously in the background. Would revealing herself invite judgment? The fear loomed large, taunting her with its familiar weight. At that moment, she realized this vulnerability was where her power lay. It wasn't merely about sharing a story, it was about building an emotional bridge toward collective understanding. Fueled by this new insight, she picked up her phone to schedule additional interviews. Each conversation became a thread in the fabric she was weaving, a tapestry of diverse narratives stitched together by a common theme of resilience. In the following weeks, each session encased her in myriad personal sagas, sculpting an artistic representation of shared strength. The women, each so vividly unique, spoke to her, transforming her inhibitions into a source of inspiration. Yet amid this growth, a subtle nagging feeling persisted. What if she hadn't unearthed enough of her own story to genuinely support others? That thought held weight, creeping into her subconscious, echoing like a distant thunderclap whenever she contemplated her own contributions. The more she expressed herself through her art and her interviews, the more she discovered untapped layers of anguish and hope lurking beneath her skin. Feeling that her emotional journey had only just begun, Nia contemplated plunging into her past memories once more, ready to excavate hidden truths. There was more to discover, and with each revelation, her expectations for her project began to crystallize into something both beautiful and terrifying. As Nia prepared for another interview, she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror, a reflection of determination battling shadows of uncertainty. The moment of truth felt imminent. Was she ready to embrace her own narrative and face the response it might evoke? Questions hung in the air like heavy fog. Would exposing her truth be met with acceptance, confusion, or disconnection? As she sensed the tidal wave of emotion approaching, she knew one thing for certain. This journey was unfolding in ways she had never anticipated. What treasures lay waiting in the labyrinth of her past? And would illuminating her own shadows lead the way for others to do the same? As Nia flipped through her journal, the words from her interviews echoed in her mind, underscoring her growing need for introspection. The stories she had elicited were powerful, raw, and real, but the realization of her own narrative felt increasingly insistent. Every woman she had spoken to possessed a wealth of strength, yet as she compared her burgeoning project to their journeys, a gnawing doubt resurfaced. How could she facilitate their vulnerability without having first opened her own doors of experience? That night, as soft moonlight spilled across her bedroom floor, Nia closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Memories slumbered in her mind, waiting for the right moment to surface. She recalled fleeting moments of shame from her youth, incidents that had made her hesitate to shine. Would stirring these emotions invoke pain or catalyze healing? A flicker of resolve ignited within her. Perhaps it was time to confront her past. Just as she had welcomed others' stories, surely she could allow her own to seep into the project. But the shadows seemed heavy, obscured parts of her that she had tucked away, dusty and unexamined. The following day would bring another interview, but even as she prepared, the thought of her story gnawed at her like a persistent itch. This interviewee, a woman who had triumphed over significant personal struggles, could very well draw parallels to Nia's own experiences. Nia had witnessed how powerful shared vulnerability could be, and now it was becoming imperative she engage in that authenticity herself. After finishing her preparations, she stood before the mirror, scrutinizing her reflection once more. "What are you afraid of, Nia?" she whispered, brows furrowing. The familiar face staring back at her seemed to ask the same question. Would she ever relinquish the fear of judgment or the mask of perfectionism that had clung to her all these years? During the interview, as she listened to the woman's journey of resilience and transformation, something shifted inside her. Each triumphant revelation unraveled the knots of doubt constricting her heart. Nia could sense the raw truth of their conversations blossoming within her, compelling her toward her own honesty. As they exchanged experiences, this other woman's bravery ignited a flicker of possibility. The two of them could hold space for one another's truths. In that confined room, Nia felt a growing awareness of the vulnerability she needed to accept within herself. The thought nudged at her, persistent yet gentle. Perhaps her story could work in tandem with her interviews rather than detract from them. Seeing her own hardships reflected in the bold admissions of others imbued her with strength. After the call, encouraged by the profound connection they had forged, she wandered to her easel and began painting. Each stroke felt like a reconciliation of her past. The colors blended seamlessly, mirroring her desire for clarity and transformation. Art had always been a sanctuary for her, and now each stroke depicted courage amidst chaos. Amid that process, realization dawned upon her. She was ready to embrace her truth, her own potpourri of experiences and challenges. The fear lingered, of course, but it began to seem like a mere whisper compared to the burgeoning fire of self-discovery. As she stood back to admire her work, the weight of expectation lifted. She wasn't seeking perfection, just authenticity. The journey toward unveiling her truth was now marked by anticipation rather than dread. With every brushstroke a step closer to her narrative, Nia understood that sharing her journey would be as vital as the stories she had collected. As she prepared for her next round of interviews, a new question hung over her like a shimmering haze. Would she be brave enough to divulge her past alongside those she interviewed? And as the echoes of her past grew louder, Nia couldn't ignore the urgency of her own truths waiting to be told. Would this leap of faith lead her to the connection she craved? Or would it push her further into isolation? The tension both excited and terrified her, spinning her thoughts into a whirlwind of contemplation. The moment was approaching, a moment of deep honesty that held the potential to change everything. The air was electric with anticipation as Nia prepared for the culmination of her artistic journey. Today marked the opening of her new exhibition, Threads of Strength, showcasing not only her own artwork, but also the stories of those she had interviewed, woven beautifully through her brushstrokes. Each piece on display was a reflection of resilience, a celebration of vulnerability. She had reached the point where acceptance of her narrative felt empowering rather than fraught with fear. As she rolled into the gallery, the soft ambient music enveloping her felt like an embrace. The vibrant colors of her paintings danced under the gallery lights, capturing the energy of the stories behind them. She felt an exhilarating sense of ownership wash over her as she gazed at each canvas. This was not just a collection of art. It was a testament to her journey, a vivid representation of authenticity and growth. Visitors milled about, admiring her work, their faces lighting up with emotion. Nia caught snippets of conversation. "This speaks to me on so many levels," one woman remarked. "The chaos displayed here feels oddly comforting," another said. The comments showered her with warmth, fortifying her belief that she had crafted something meaningful. Today was not only a celebration of her art, it was a celebration of her voice. She recalled the tight knots of anxiety that had gripped her when she first decided to expose her truth. But standing here now, she recognized the power in that leap of faith. She had come to embrace every layer of her being, intertwining her experiences with those of others. Just then, Amy approached, her eyes sparkling with pride. "Nia, this is incredible. You've managed to capture the essence of these stories," she praised, gesturing toward the centerpiece of the exhibition. Nia's latest painting expressed raw emotion, a swirling blend of colors symbolizing both anguish and hope, each stroke deliberately pulling from her own experiences. "Thank you, Amy," Nia replied, her voice steady and strong. "I finally feel like I've created something true to myself. Sharing my story alongside theirs has been liberating." As the afternoon unfolded, Nia felt a ripple of change in the atmosphere. Attendees began asking questions about the pieces, and she found herself answering with a newfound confidence. "This particular piece represents not just my paralysis, but the strength I've uncovered in writing my own narrative," she described, her heart racing but her voice unwavering. People listened, empathizing with her struggles as they related them to their own lives. There was no longer the hollow fear of being seen solely for her wheelchair. She had transformed her story into a source of inspiration. Conversations flowed like a river, weaving through the gallery, and Nia reveled in it. At last, it was time for her to speak. As she stood in front of a gathering crowd, she felt an empowering rush. "Thank you for being here today," she began. "This exhibition represents not just my art, but our combined journeys, stories etched in vulnerability and strength. For so long, I allowed fear to dictate my narrative. But today, I reclaim my power." Nia paused, taking in their attentive faces. "When I reached out to others to share their truths, I discovered that by embracing my own, I found connection, a sense of belonging." The crowd erupted into applause, and the warmth surged within her, a recognition that the world was beginning to see her not just as a girl in a wheelchair, but as an artist, a storyteller, and a symbol of resilience. As the evening drew to a close, Nia felt a radiant shift within herself. She basked in the realization that she had transformed not just as an artist, but as a person, confident and competent, filled with the courage to define her own path. She had learned to see her scars not as flaws, but as badges of honor. With each interaction, she saw how the intersection of her story and those she painted had forged a powerful bond. She had conquered the shadows that once held her captive, proving to herself that she could soar beyond the constraints others had placed around her. Leaving the gallery, a sense of fulfillment wrapped around her like a warm blanket. She knew that this was just the beginning. The exhibition was a launch pad, and the stories she revealed would continue to ripple through lives, sparking conversations and initiating change. As she rolled down the night-lit street, a smile crept across her face. She had embraced her truth and emerged victorious. This moment marked a new chapter, not just in her art, but in her life, a celebration of the strength found within vulnerability. Today was not merely about recognition, it was a testament to her spirit, unwavering and resolute. Nia had mastered the art of transformation, and this newfound freedom to own her narrative would guide her through every canvas yet to come. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the significance of collective encouragement through these actions.